What's up, everybody? It's Big Cheds coming to you live. I'm joined by Big Jonas. He's gracious to give us his we were just talking on the phone, and we're like, man, this should be a good show, right, Big Jonas?
Well, there's a lot of interesting action happening right now on the price of Bitcoin, so we figured why don't we just do it live?
Let's do it live, Bill O'Reilly style. You can find him on Twitter at Big Jonas, of course, at Jonas Trading. He's also now a featured contributor at Bitcoin Live. He does an awesome job. Of course, I'm Big Cheds. What?
Hello?
Yeah. So, what do you think? What are you thinking about the market right now? You know, how are you playing it? Do you think we have a little bit further to go down here before we find some support? What are your thoughts?
Well, Cheds, this is this is a moment here that we've been watching, continuation really of the bearishness that we had spent all of last week. Just a historic week in terms of all this time we've been trying to do an analysis of what's happening with Bitcoin, and then in about a 2 weeks' time, we're able to drop 40% from where we were just at the beginning of this month.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny to think about how much analysis we had spent in the 6K area trying to break down, okay, if Bitcoin does break bearish, we have our areas of the next area of support, the original lows of June, the 5,500 area, and then of course that 5K area, that all elusive 5K area that that a lot of people thought would be at least a psychological but strong support area that we wanted to see how the price was going to interact if it touched there. And boy, did it touch. Found a little bit of support initially, but overall, that break brought us into the fours. And to just wake up every day now, the past few days, and see a Bitcoin price with a 3 handle is just it still hasn't sunk in,
right,
in a way. Also, these volume bars, seeing this kind of volume profile after being so low consistently for weeks and weeks and weeks, it just kind of startles you in a sense because of I don't want to use the word complacency because we've been really on this thing, but just to see how quickly and how volatile Bitcoin can be. Historically speaking, this does happen. But I think a lot of newer people that probably came into crypto in the past year or so, this kind of a bear break is quite precedented and potentially caught a lot of people off guard. And the question is kind of, are we done with it yet? Are we in a zone where, maybe plus or minus a few $100? Have we actually found a good area of a bottoming? Or is this just kind of the halfway point? And you might actually end up heading.
Halfway point to what? To capitulation?
Well, we're looking for those telltale signs of what normal market bottoms tend to look like. And those are something like what? Well, they're large volume candles, tremendous red bear volume, that feeling, that sense that the world is over, that everything is ending, that thing is just going to fall off a cliff. And in those moments, those tend to be those auto oversold bottoming moments. Now, when we use the word oversold, at least in my THs, we've had to kind of adapt to this new paradigm where a daily RSI is still sub 30 after several days. Can you maximize that RSI there? Because
just double click right there.
Yeah. Not on the line though, just do it in the middle. Yeah, right there, perfect. Because it's so unprecedented to have the RSI, at least in this past year, because the touch, let's say, of the 30 area, Cheds, we see several occurrences where it's produced a very nice V bottom bounce, right? And so many RSI profiles. There's 6 or 8 to even circle, and that's notable. And what's notable about this trend is we've kind of broken that. We've fallen down the depths, and we're doing that, searching for a pulse, searching for a heartbeat. And I said something in my last show that, anything under 28 to 30 really at this point is kind of irrelevant in terms of judging how you can see the strength of the RSI.
Where do we find that show again?
Big Jonas Trading on Twitter and YouTube.
All right. Isn't it, when we kind of zoomed in, doesn't it look like a bearish pennant, Big Jonas? Like the RSI?
Yeah,
So,
definitely a pennant. I do see that as a pennant, and again, pennants are normally continuation patterns as well.
yeah.
But remember, relative strength index. This is
Mm,
about the strength of the engine. The kind of fuel that this has to go.
mm-hmm,
When the RSI is in the middle range, the 50s, the 60s, that's an extra strength that the
mm-hmm,
bulls need to kind of maintain a momentum. This is a beat up RSI on a beat up price,
mm-hmm.
resisted by the MA8 consistently. That orange, sorry, the green line there. And
Yeah.
let's face it, if the price can't get above near-term moving average resistance,
Mm-hmm.
there's no way that the bulls can have a narrative now that they have command. The bears clearly still do,
Yep.
even with these tremendous oversold conditions and this
Mm-hmm.
tremendous sell-off. And just from a percentage standpoint, if
Mm-hmm.
I asked the average Joe out there if they could buy Bitcoin
Mm-hmm.
at almost a 50% discount a
Mm.
few weeks ago, would a trader stomp on that and basically say, yes, that sounds like a great deal to me. And now
Mm.
that we're here,
Mm.
there still seems to be a reluctance.
But it's funny, there always is too. The couple thoughts. I mean,
Sure.
that's great analysis. But we always do the thing where it always seems like it's so. I wouldn't pay $1 for it, and then it runs, and you're chasing it 10 times higher. So it's how quickly you love something versus what you hate it. It's really weird how that happens. Like we were at 7K, right? 3,500. Load the boat. Now we're here. I want 3,200. I want 3,000. So it's interesting how that happens.
It is, and I think it's interesting to basically sense with we had talked about certain support areas with Litecoin,
Yeah.
Ethereum, Bitcoin. Wouldn't it be amazing to buy at these levels? And
Mm-hmm.
and now that we're there, Litecoin sub 30.
Crazy.
I mean, I bought Litecoin at like 24 was like one of my second tranches, and
Right.
we're there in a completely different paradigm though on this market. Like
Mm-hmm.
to get your first circle there, July of 17, that area was actually, if you want to go to Coinbase has a little more history there.
Not as much as we have history.
This is true. We see that
Churn. There was some
Litecoin,
churn right here, huh?
there was, but Litecoin was not a dead stick. It was what, at like $2, $3, and then very quickly rose
Mm-hmm.
To $90.
Yeah.
And just because we're stopping in the 28 area, remember the 50s, as you can
Mm-hmm.
see in your chart there. There's history there. There was chop there. We basically blew through that. We blew through our 35 region, which I have thought would be an interesting area for Litecoin to potentially find that kind of support.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're seeing once again this area with. It's hard to see a market conviction that this is a good value even at these low prices, because there's a sense.
Mm-hmm.
But
No, I mean, sorry, but you can still scale in here. I feel like it's okay to scale in here, even though I think, like, let me just back up and be precise. All right. So I was well on the record for calling bottom, which failed. When the fork wars, the BCH wars happened, this broke down. Whether the chart predicted it or not, fine. I thought this was bottom. Bullish divergence didn't happen. Okay. When that happened, I'm looking for the most logical support level for me is 2970. So this is where I think Bitcoin's going to ultimately test, whether it's on a quick V bottom or some type of a drawn out situation. We don't know. I'm just going to quickly finish in the TA here. We'll get back to the conversation. Clearly, we're pinned by the 8 EMA, the green line. All right. So we're going to have to break that to kind of reverse the trend. And clearly, we can see a series of bearish continuation patterns. Just real quickly, we see one here. And we see when we're working on one here. So even though I think we're going to have, Big Jonas, another leg down, I still think it's actually okay to start scaling in, in this range, especially Litecoin, where I think you can get some big percentage returns maybe compared to Bitcoin.
Well, here's the question. Scaling in now at let's call it $3,600. Let's say we did drop down to $2,800, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And that induces a very nice bounce, okay? Maybe we get the V bottom, the capitulation volume, all that stuff kind of kind of happened there with that break of 3K. Then, because you started scaling at $3,500, you're probably going to get back there pretty quickly on that bounce.
Right.
So you're right in the sense that if 3K area and the consensus that it should be strong support being held there if we get down there, you know, we're still talking, what, 8 to 10% off the actual low. That bounce should easily come back to where we are now and then surpass that, making your entry now a positive with that scenario taking place. The counter to that, the ultra bear, the grizzly, if you will, is that 3K is not as strong of a support as we all think it could be. And we actually get to 2K, which would make anything in the 3K buy zone a real underwater scenario.
I mean, why 2K? I mean, why 2K? Oh, I just said why 2K. Isn't like 1K more significant than 2K? Because 2K, really, what does 2K have? You broke through it, and it was just briefly support.
What's that pullback there? Those two candles there, yeah. That
1917, yeah, 1917.
So stop and reverse right there, right?
Yeah, it bounced off the middle Bollinger. It's 19 whatever, 1917. But I mean, if you break that, whoosh, right down this 12, you know, 50.
Yeah. And seriously, that's another 50% haircut from where we are today, if you can think about that. And what would that do to Litecoin, Ethereum, and everything else? But again, you have to ask yourself, if Bitcoin at 6K, you know, if you were kind of bullish at 6K, like, are you really not bullish now at 3,500? And if we get down to 3K or even lower, are you going to hold off until an ultimate if you can chase it? And if you miss it, if there's let's say there is a good bounce, then are you going to be then FOMOing in, trying to chase the rocket, if you will, and missing out on better entries by doing your laddering? Oh, that's actually a thing I wanted to ask you about is how would you ladder? How would you scale in if you got down, if you see Bitcoin touching that 3K, 29.90, how are you scaling in if you want to catch some of that wick there at that moment?
So how am I scaling in? Are you asking, so have I already started scaling in now, or is my plan to scale in at that level?
We're getting close to your interesting buy zone there, but you also want to protect yourself if you are a little early. So how do you...
I'm probably splitting it up into about 3 buys. Okay. And I'm starting out with my initial entry. I have a stop loss level, and then I potentially may be averaging up on a particular like a candle pattern, a nice reversal pattern with some volume behind it. So there's a couple options. I can average. I'm probably not going to average down. I probably hit a stop loss, but if it quickly shot down like a crazy wick, that's a situation where I might average down. But usually I'm just going to have the stop loss, and then I'm going to potentially average up or maybe even add to my position near my initial buy. But I'm going to split it up into probably 3 entries is how I would play it.
Would your stop loss then be right below your second entry? So
it would be based on a rationale. Like, the whole point is my stop loss is based on whatever the rationale is of the trade. So if the rationale of the trade is we're holding this Morningstar reversal, we're holding this the Dragonfly Doji, and it based on that and the volume behind it and the fact that that's a logical support area. Like, if that breaks, then the rationale for the trade breaks. So just for me, it's based on what's your plan, what's your rationale behind it, and that's why, when you know how you and I talk about keeping a trading journal, when you enter a trade, why you entered it, what your rationale was, and you kind of have to reflect on it later. So that type of thing.
Do you think there's a narrative of a bottoming that's not a V bottom, but some sort of long drawn out kind of wishy-washiness? I mean, I think a lot of us are looking for a similar bottoming in what we had in 2014, where it was just basically roller coaster down, waterfall down, and then there was a quick long wick with a whipsaw back up. That was a nice bounce, and then we just ranged for almost a year in that $200, $300 range, and then we started our new bull run.
What about Ethereum, or what are you referring to?
Bitcoin in 2014, 2015.
Oh, okay. Right.
And so remember, even if all right, here's another question.
Mm-hmm.
We get down to 3K, we get down, something like that,
Yep.
and you start scaling in, and we have that nice bounce. Is this the bottom, or is this just a good trade
Mm-hmm.
to play a nice oversold bounce
Mm-hmm.
for a couple days, maybe, or even a few weeks, and
Mm.
see how it goes and kind of try to scale out along the way? Because any kind of bounce, as we know,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of hit tremendous resistance on the way up.
So you have to decide a metric, right? So it's like, you know, it's not everything is like a one or a zero, an on or an off, the bottom, the top, right? Obviously, you want to predict correctly, realize when a trend has changed.
Hmm.
Okay, and you have to also recognize the difference between like a bounce within a bearish continuation pattern. Like you can have an inverted head and shoulders inside a bear flag, right?
Mm.
For example, so you have to be able to recognize that. So you also have to think about what's your metric, what's your time frame. If you're a flipper, if you're a trader using half an hour, 1 hour, whatever you're doing, right? But if you're looking for longer view, I'm trying to look at when I'm trading, I'm looking at 12-hour charts.
Hmm.
And I'm looking for the macro direction. I'm looking weekly. I want to step back. I want to observe. So on my weekly chart, what would it mean for this trend to reverse? I think probably, I mean, if we get back over like 8,500, I think
Whoa.
that would be really impressive for me. And I'll tell you why. You're gonna regain your 50 MA. You're gonna break back above the upper Bollinger Band. You're gonna clear through all that consolidation from 6 to 8K. You're asking me when I think it's reversed, right? I'm not saying we're going to 8K, but that's what a macro reversal would look like to me.
Yeah,
Okay,
but from there, that'd be over 100%. I mean, that's
correct.
not a hard call to make if we're up
It's
over
not a hard call
100%.
to make, but if the thesis is that Bitcoin every year or every few years has these 80% drawdowns that makes an all-time high, if we're
Hmm.
ever going to get back to 28K, don't we have to pass 8K?
Well, I think now, how the heck do we get over 5K?
Right,
Because
right.
if 5K, well, I mean, obviously 6K, or
Well,
let's just call
look at the
50.
pocket, Big Jonas. Look at
Yeah.
the pocket. You have
Yeah.
the volume gap that I've seen in your tweets, volume gap, and you've been pointing
Mhm.
that out. And if we can if we can regain and break back above like 46, you jump all the way to pretty much 6K.
Well, it is something to note that volume gaps work in both directions, bullish and bearish. So
Mm-hmm.
we've fallen through the sky very quickly from 6K to 4K. Let's just call it.
Mm-hmm.
The inverse is true because we have this gap in both directions.
Mm-hmm.
Flying back through this is not as hard as it could be
Right.
until we potentially get to 6K. So um, there's a bounce, but is it a trend change? Is it a bear market over bounce, or is it just we're correcting? And we've seen it before where we sell off too much, we have a correction bounce,
Mm-hmm.
it gets rejected. A similar narrative can play out, but
Hmm.
in this market, when long traders are up, it's going to be hard for them not to take profits along the
Right.
way, right? And that's going to put downward pressure consistently on the price of Bitcoin.
I think it's a great call. Just to remind everyone, you can find my good buddy on Twitter. He is at Big Chonas. He does a lot of videos, like these quick update videos. He puts a lot of time and thought to them. Please check him out. Obviously, he's on YouTube as well at Chonas Trading. He's a lot more active than I am. So if you're into that, you like those YouTube videos, definitely check that out. Any kind of closing thoughts? We'll step back and observe here, but what do you want to leave the people with?
Yeah, Cheds, let's just go down to like the hourly chart and we'll kind of just riff on the past few hours if I could. Can you just maximize just the
Yeah,
charts?
let me just clean it up for you as well.
Nice.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
All right, so we talk about little short-term candles here. A lot of these I'm seeing as kind of like stop-loss hunters here. We're kind of just
Mm.
like, oh, we're short, and then you get a wick and it just stops you out, or oh, we're long, and you get that wick down and it stops you out. So this is ranging,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not allowing one side or the other to kind of gain dominance in a position just yet.
Mm.
This volume is quite consistent over the past couple days here. There's a real battle between the bulls and the bears right now. It's very clear. We are still technically holding our higher low, right, from yesterday.
Okay.
But we're also putting in lower lows from yesterday still as well.
Lower highs.
Sorry, lower highs. Thank you. So our equilibrium is tightening, but there's been no change yet. And all we can say...
But didn't we lose it? Look at that. Didn't we lose the equilibrium fight right here?
Right there. That's a good point. That's a good point. That was our first lower low.
Higher low, candle close especially. Yeah. Boom, 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 breakdown. So aren't we now bearish continuation?
Now bear. And then our last... So here's the thing. A break of 35, which is kind of where we bottomed last time, puts just the last little bit of a chance for a double tap bottom. And you'd have to see some mega volume pop in to confirm that. Otherwise, a break of 35 puts literally all the way down to $3,000 and then some back in play. I personally would be looking for a flush of 3K. If we're going to get there, and I've seen this before, there's a wall. Okay, there's a wall at 3K. It gets chopped into. Mm-hmm. Big sells happen. It dumps through, dumps down to like 28.50, like super fast, and then there's your quick whipsaw kind of candle back. That's a possibility. Mm-hmm. It all depends how we get there. We could be ranging sideways for a while to allow our extremely oversold indicators to get their head above water just a little bit.
I love it, and I appreciate all your hard work. As just to remind everyone, you can find him on Twitter at Big Chonas. And I'll just wrap it up briefly. 12-hour chart for me. I'm not going to get whipsawed too much. I'm going to kind of stay focused on the 12-hour chart, and I want to see the price break up above and close above the EMA 8 Big Chonas. That's what I'm going to continue to watch. And I will say, however, this is bottom type volume. So we're building the volume cluster that I said a few days ago we needed to build. We're building it. Yep. But I would caution against another leg down. We already overbought stochastics RSI. OBV is showing weakness. Even with the triple bottom and the multiple oversolds, we have a series of bearish continuation patterns, I believe, in EMA 8 rejections. So that's kind of where we're at. We're going to continue to watch it. Want to remind everyone I'm one of 6 teachers and analysts over at Bitcoin Live, the best-in-class educational platform for crypto. We also have featured contributors of Big Chonas and others joining us now, putting in some really great content. If you want to check out our webinars on YouTube, we have webinars for all of the analysts. I really enjoy putting out unique educational content as well as timely alerts. We've recently added a monthly option as well as a quarterly option if you want to try it out before you commit for a full year. And with that, just really appreciate you guys showing up. If you liked the video, please hit that thumbs up.
Thumbs up, guys. Thumbs up.
If you didn't like it, hey, hit thumbs down. We'll keep on rolling, though. We love you. Big Chonas, man, thanks for joining. I really appreciate it.
Peace out, Chad. Thanks for having me. Let's do this again soon.
You got it, my man. You take care, bro.
Too. Peace.